Hello and welcome back to the Good Game Nation channel where we bring you everything TCG. My name is Sam. I'm here with Preston. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. And we're doing something a little different today. We're here with another episode of The Nation. The topic today is physical TCG versus digital TCGs. Example would be like One Piece versus something like Hearthstone. We're looking at the differences, stuff like that. In the comments, let us know which digital versus TCGs you played. Have you played anything like Hearthstone? You guys playing Marvel Snap right now? Let me know. I'm playing too. It's interesting. Preston, you've played a lot of physical games. How much digital ones have you played? Have you played one of the ones like One Piece online? Like, what do you think about that in general?
So I think it's great for accessibility. Jumping right into like my thought process on it. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links.
Oh yeah.
I think it's called Duel Links. It's the 3x3 board. Love it to bits. And then I played it for like 2 or 3 years straight. And it was like a daily like commute game. And I think that's one thing that's really great for these is when you have a mobile platform that you can play on. You get people that like on commutes, on lunch hours, and I think Snap is taking that place for a lot of people now because the games can go so quickly. You can get 2 or 3 matches in while eating a burrito, and you got to have fun and get a couple matches in, maybe finish some daily quests and stuff like that. So I think it's super important for there to be these games. Now, whether it's the same game as the physical game is completely arbitrary. Like Yu-Gi-Oh has Duel Links and it has Masters now. I think it's called Masters, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, and Masters is more true to the physical game. While Duel Links is you get silly abilities, you can customize like the character using and has different like special abilities, and then it's only 3 zones by 3 zones. At least it was when I was playing. So it's a different game. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! Core rules are the same, but you interact with it a little bit differently, which is cool. But other than that, I haven't really played Hearthstone. I never could get behind the digital collection aspect of these games.
Yeah.
And that kept me away from like the Pokemon one also, because the Pokemon one, I don't know how you always got cards, but in packs they had like the code card to redeem packs also, and I just couldn't get behind the digital collection. And like after playing Duel Links and dumping way too much money into it, I have nothing to show for it. Like
Yeah.
I talked about it on an episode at some point of just like the last time I played Duel Links, I had put too much money into it, and I was just unsatisfied with like how it went. Because it's a gacha game. If you throw money at it, doesn't mean you're gonna play better or get the cards you want out of the pack. So I just like have fallen out of that like digital collection aspect of it. So I really haven't played very much of them. And then also a reason why I've stayed away from Snap.
I think that's that's something we didn't really talk about in the preview of this. We didn't really talk about the physical collection aspect of it, and that's a huge part because you have something to show for it. You know, if the game, like I've said, say Hearthstone dies and it goes away, you're out whatever you spent on it. But if the card game dies, there's still communities that still play dead games. Like I see tournaments on my Twitter for the old Naruto game every once in a while, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But obviously, if hypothetically it did die, there would be no monetary value or even sentimental value. I still have old collections of old sets of Pokemon. I don't really play them or use them, but I have them. That's definitely a really interesting part of it.
Yeah, and like the old Pokemon stuff may not be playable as a TCG, but it's so dang expensive. Like early like set 1 stuff, you can get a lot of money for those cards, especially if they're in good condition. And I think that like resellability down the road, like 10 years down the road, One Piece is over, the card game has faded away, and all I have is these cards that maybe I keep them forever, maybe I sell most of them and keep one of each just to have a reminder of this time period.
Yeah.
And I'm way too sentimental that way. I'd probably just keep them all.
Yeah.
But like being able to like look at a binder in 10 years and go, I remember when this card came out. I remember pulling this card on camera with the guys, and like being able to have that. If Hearthstone goes away, their servers are going down. They're not gonna. You're not gonna be able to say, oh, like you might, if you're lucky, be a person that plays cards online.
Yeah.
And have a stream that you can go and show, like, hey, in my 20s and my 30s, I streamed on YouTube and Twitch and played this game. Look at this incredible moment where I got the 1 in 100 card or the variant or whatever, which is a way to keep a collection, but most people don't play that way. We're really in a weird spot where we're in between playing a physical game online with One Piece, where luckily we have a community in this game that is incredible, and we have someone like Batsu that made OP Sim, and everyone that he has surrounding him that's helping him support that. And I don't know all of the intricacies on how he's doing it, but just having someone that is fan making simulator so that we can practice and play online and even like make content and stuff is super interesting that we even have that, because like Dragon Ball Super has been out for like 7 or 8 years. Has it been that long?
Something like that. You're pretty close. It's been out for at least 5 minimum. I think it's closer to 6 or 7.
At their last Nats or Worlds tournament, whatever it was, they announced an official online game coming soon.
Saw that.
And they've only been able to play physical from what I understand. They don't have a game developer like the One Piece community has. As close as they could get is maybe like an Untap. We started with Untap on this channel because the community had like a tabletop simulator even that they just got behind and were putting it in manually. And you're like, if you don't know the rules, you can't play, but if you know the rules, have fun.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting aspect that we have in One Piece. But for digital, that's like my extent. I know you play Snap, and I've seen people at tournaments playing Snap like in between rounds. So how do you enjoy having, one, it being Marvel, and two, it being like so easy and quick? I mean, the game's not easy, but it's like a quick and like, I think it's easy to pick up, and the matches are so fast that you can just fly through it. So how do you feel with like that game becoming relevant and coming out at all?
It's interesting because I definitely started in physical cards from a young age. I was playing Pokemon and Magic and all that stuff. My first is probably Hearthstone, like most. I don't think I played very much. I don't even know when the Pokemon client came out, but I definitely played a lot of Hearthstone. I think the difference is just the general experience, because you can play games really quick. Maybe not in Hearthstone, but at Snap, you're like you said it. I could probably play maybe even 6 games while I eat a burrito, just depending how good the burrito is. But physical card games, I think, have always come from the experience of playing with friends. It's a very social environment for me. Like I don't know if I want to spend 4 hours at a tournament. If you ever play with me, you know I'm ready to leave after a round or two. I'm hungry and I'm sleepy. So it's fun, and it's a nice vibe, especially in the One Piece community. Everyone either really enjoys the game or they really enjoy the anime/manga, and it's always fun seeing what their favorite stuff is. And you could say that for Pokemon and Dragon Ball. Maybe not Magic. That was a different crowd. But typically it's a social thing. For the digitals, I enjoy TCGs, CCGs, whatever. So I think I just enjoy the game aspect of itself. Like, I dropped Hearthstone when I didn't really enjoy it anymore. So that comes strictly from me enjoying the game. And if the game isn't very fun, I drop it. But I'll go play cards. Like, I'll go play Dragon Ball even if I'm not liking the meta, just to hang out. So I think it's just a different experience. obviously there's all the things, I very much agree with everything that you said. It's especially in the collection aspect, but I think strictly if the game's not good, I'm probably not playing the digital version, but I'll play a TCG. I'll go hang out for a couple hours, win or lose, I don't really care, and yeah, have fun. I think that's probably the aspect that I look at for digital versus physical.
Yeah, that's a big driving force for physical too, because if you're doing it to hang out with your friends, you might be able to get like some people on Discord to hang out and play Hearthstone. Hearthstone have a like friendly PvP,
Now when the game came out, I don't think it did, but I'm very sure it does now.
and Snap does now also.
Yeah, after a couple months they added it, which is such a great add.
Yeah, and that gives you the ability to like hang out and play. Especially like we live further apart now, so if we wanted to jump on and just hang out and play, that gives us an option, which is cool. But yeah, I can definitely see physical having that like camaraderie, where like if we wanted to play Hearthstone or Snap versus each other every day, we could, but then you lose out on that aspect of a random like matchmaking and stuff like that. You never really know what you're gonna get when you're going to a local. You don't know if you're gonna end up in a 32-man 7-round tournament or whatever.
It's my nightmare.
And then go into like a top 8, top 16 breakdown, and one of your friends does well.
Wow, this feels very specific. This feels very specific to this weekend. That's hilarious.
I had a bad week.
Oh man.
But like, you don't know what you're getting when you're going to a local. The last tournament that we went to could have been a like 3 or 4 round scrub up and leave, or if the tournament organizer like starts to see more people, they promote it heavier and they say, all right, we're playing for something bigger now because we have more people or something. You never know if it's going to be 8 rounds or 3 rounds. You just show up and hope that you get to play.
Yeah.
Which digital, you're just going to throw yourself into the matchmaking and you'll always have a match and you can play for as long as you want.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting aspect to it.
Yeah, that I completely agree. You touched on it earlier when you were talking about queuing up and all that. We've talked about it before on the channel. I think it was in the Tournaments podcast. I'll link it right here. The legitimacy of these games, because this is a generally competitive channel. We talk about meta a lot, and that's generally where our minds like to go. And I know when we talked about it with Zach, he especially the webcam stuff. I've obviously the webcam versus those Hearthstone and all that are very different, but he talked about legitimacy being a little lower because they put a lot of value into being in person and having that more one-on-one experience. A lot more goes into it. Certain tells, all that poker stuff. So the legitimacy tends to be a little lower. But when we think about digital versus physical, a lot of those same arguments still are valid. I think there's a lot of things that digital does well, but there's obviously a lot of things that I could understand why you wouldn't say this is a little different than card games. It might be esports versus sports argument a little bit there. So I wonder what you think about the legitimacy aspect of it.
So there's like 2 or 3 things here. In a video game, the legitimacy falls apart when your game is buggy. So I've heard recently that one of the Pokemon clients, like the official Pokemon clients, has like a lot of problems with it. So it gets to a point where either you can activate effects repeatedly when it says once per turn, or I think there's certain effects that you can only ever use once per turn. And it would let you activate the effect, get a card from your graveyard, activate the effect, ditch the, like basically using Ultra Ball over and over again, but it was like a Pokemon like special ability.
Wow.
And that is the game. Like,
yeah.
At the point, the person that's on the other side of it is just waiting to like quit because the game's bugged and they can't legitimately win anymore, and there's no point in continue a contest that's not like a fair. It's not a contest at that point. It's just I'm gonna keep cheating because the game's allowing me to cheat, regardless of the player wants to cheat. They're getting to the point where they're in a loop where they can, and there's no point, which ruins digital gaming if your online client isn't working for you. And then there's webcam. I think the problem with webcam is you don't have that physical aspect of everyone kind of keeping each other legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, if I'm playing at a table and I have people on both sides of me, I have a good feeling where if they see my opponent stacking, they might nudge me and go, "Hey, this is bullshit. Like, he's obviously cheating." I
Yeah.
have a small feeling that the community, at least in the tournaments that I've been going to, where they would go, "I don't think this is legit." Um, and then you could bring it up to the judge. But if you're doing this online, it's just you and that person. And if they're stacking and they're doing well, you shouldn't be able to tell. Um, and what do you do? How do you complain about something if they have all of their jet pistols and all of their vistas and all of their otamas right at the right time? Was it random or was it cheating?
Yeah.
It could be both. It could be neither. So I can see how, like, Zach that loves playing physical, he's in person. He likes the same, like, community camaraderie, I believe, as you, not wanting to sit at his desk and play online all day. Um, Something interesting about physical tells that you brought up is when we started playing Dragon Ball Super. At one point, you or Zach said, "Do I ever?" Asked me, "Do you ever look at your opponent?" And I was like,
I remember
"Nah."
this combo. That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm like, "Nah." I stare at my hand and try to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to be doing, and you guys were like, "Look up," and it changes so much.
Mm-hmm.
And now, more often than not, when it's not my turn, especially in like cards that you don't really get a good response phase, I absolutely am staring my opponent in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not uncomfortable with it, but they might be. And that might be a little bit of like a poker tell where
Mm-hmm.
I can read them a little bit. Or if you can play a little bit of a mind game where they're uh, trying to figure it out and they're getting nervous because you're staring at them and they're getting a little flustered, is part of sports.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that it goes throughout sports. I can imagine being on like an O line and having a someone like a linebacker just staring daggers at me,
Mm-hmm.
or like being a running back lining up to the line and just lining up against someone and then just like full like dogging you.
Mm-hmm.
That would like rattle me. So not having that ability to do that in digital or in webcam is a big part of it for, I think, highly competitive players.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing for fun, I don't think it matters, but that poker face, that like tell, if someone starts shuffling their hands more and they hadn't been the whole time, they might not have anything. That might be their tell. So you wouldn't get all of the information from the game in a digital aspect,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really interesting like concept that you're like taking away from the experience
Mm-hmm.
while making it more accessible. I like the online tournaments. I wish they were easier to get into, but
Yeah. That's a whole other issue.
yeah, that's a whole nother problem that we need to figure out.
Shout out Ticketmaster.
Exactly, it's exactly that same problem. Um, so I like the ability to be able to be home, especially with my family.
In PJs?
Yeah, in PJs, nearby near a kitchen where I can snack between rounds without having to pay.
Get a game loss?
Yeah, or whatever. Or being able to like help with my kid in between rounds or something like that is
Yeah.
incredible. So it just, maybe it's different feelings for different people, and sometimes you want to be out in public and hanging out, and sometimes you just want to be in your PJs.
Yeah.
Uh, trying to get those dubs.
Yeah. I think that last one really resonated. I think I would absolutely play more games if I could do it from home in PJs. That's how I want to play video games. Most of these comments I'm thinking about high tournaments. Obviously, it makes more sense to play digital if you're playing casually. Like, you can just hop online, play matches, get off. That's why I like Snap so much. It's very just open it and play and get off, go do something else. But thinking highly physical, it's very hard for me to be like, this guy won 3 Hearthstone tournaments. Oh, this guy won 3 Magic tournaments. Mm-hmm. That Magic guy's a stud. That game to win multiple in is elite. That game is hard. And the poker antics are real. I memorized my cards already. I know what's there. I'm watching you when you draw that card. I'm looking to see if you make a face. Are you eyeing the same card? Like over and over. There's plenty of games where you discard cards from your hands. I'm going to watch you shuffle and I'm going to pick that card, the one you've been eyeing. I'm watching to see if you're shuffling. I'm watching to see if are you a little shaky. Like I'm looking for these tells. When I'm sweating, I don't want to play that anymore. I like to be very casual. But if those are things people are looking for, those poker antics. And I think that really changes the game. And we talked about traditional sports because there's such a comparison there. But you're absolutely right. Like when you play Madden or whatever, you don't have those, you can't tell this guy's angry or whatever. Like that's a real game. Like his name was Mean Joe Green. Like he didn't get that nickname because he was nice. He had a whole persona and he let you hear it on the field. And that aspect you'll never be able to gather. As much as you play him, you'll never be able to gather that from the real life experience. Not to say that I'm discrediting anyone from winning Hearthstone. That's incredibly impressive. That game is hard and I don't find it fun, but you found it fun. I'm so proud of you. Like, there's so much RNG for that game for me, but like I said, you won that. I couldn't do that. That's impressive. But again, like the Magic guy, the Pokemon winner, those games have been around for a long time. There's a lot of history there. It's very hard to win those games consistently or be a top player consistently. And they're top players because they believe in these poker antics and how to shuffle, these little techniques that you don't get from the tutorial when you play it. You gather these skills. So I think there's a large legitimacy thing for me, especially when we're considering high-level play. But experience, I'm going online all the way. I prefer playing sim over real, like the regular One Piece cards. We can run sim games 3 in like 40 minutes. I don't got to shuffle or set up life. It was easy. It's really convenient. I'm all for that. I'm all for playing in my PJs. So, there's differences. I definitely agree. It leans towards, comfort and accessibility for these online things. I love thinking about people in rural, like not a lot of places where they can play, and they could just boot up OP Sim with a couple of their online buddies and just chill over Discord, have a drink or whatever, and just play a couple of games. I think that's fairly valuable for building a community, and which is what TCGs are built on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you need both sides. You need aspects of both sides, and it's interesting that now there's games like Snap where they never were a physical game. The creators were just like, we want to make a cool game. Let's see if we can get Marvel involved, and they just made a game that they found interesting.
Yeah.
Ironically, I think a lot of the head creators came from Hearthstone.
They sure did.
Yeah.
They sure did.
Yeah, so like they already had a digital game that they were like, we can make digital card games. We know they can be popular.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that like these card games, the physical card games, understand that there is a market for it. Pokemon had been doing it for a long time, where you got the code card. Yu-Gi-Oh! Picked up on this and eventually made Duel Links and Masters. And Dragon Ball Super is going to be having its own digital version at some point, like in the near future. So like the companies are seeing that this is a thing, and I could see One Piece at some point, after so many sets, getting a digital only version where you rebuilt your collection.
That tutorial app's amazing. They could easily add a that tutorial app is one of the smoother ones I've gotten a chance to play with.
Exactly. And all you need to do is scale that up to like 10 sets of cards and keep it that smooth, and then you have just a gorgeous game that will inevitably make you crap tons of money, because I can see people going back in and spending hundreds of dollars to make sure that they can play set 1 red again.
Yep.
And play, like, especially in like 10 sets when it hopefully aren't playing Whitebeard still.
No bets.
Yeah, I know. But hopefully, like, sets down the road, they release a digital game and you get to have that nostalgia feeling. That's something that the Duel Links gave me that I didn't expect when I picked it up. It's just something that I think will happen inevitably, and especially if they see the Dragon Ball Super version make them tons of money. They'll adopt Digimon and One Piece into that and just take home the money and not have to print and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm happy that it's happening, like, just generally.
Yeah, this medium of this random hobby slowly just getting a little more popular as they adapt mainstream anime into their games. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Me. It's brilliant. That's why I'm here. Well, guys, that does it for this episode. I'm sure there was a lot of topics. I'll be in the comments. Let me know. Did we miss things? There's something about TCGs that, versus digital that we missed. There's a ton. Marketing is a whole nother topic. You make a buttload of money in these digital games. You talked about Duel Links. I don't even want to know what I put into Snap. I don't want to know. That'd be terrible. But thank you guys. If you're still here, please consider doing the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you Sunday. Bye. Bye. Do 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 do. I love this song.
Have you seen a way to cheat in Snap yet?
Other than when the cards are buggy, it's impossible to cheat. That game will block anything that's against the code.
Perfect. That's even more reason to play digital.
It's a lot of fun. It's a fun little game.